Hello and welcome to the 6th edition of this Magic the Judging series where we teach you to be a better judge. I'm Paul Smith, I'm a level 3 judge from England. Nice to see you all again. Look, so much beard, so much beard. I was totally going to get this shaved or something yesterday, at least trimmed a bit. I've got the moustache going in the mouth thing. It's not a good sign, not a good look. Never mind. I'm sure you're all here for the magic content and not for the beard, not just the beard. If you're incredibly unlucky, you might get to see the beard in GP Manchester. Grand Prix Manchester is coming up. It's in April. That's all I can remember right now. Somebody in the chat will tell me the date, surely, because they know so much more than me. Everyone in the chat knows exactly what I'm talking about and types their words in, and I read it and go, oh yeah, that thing, and speak it out, and it's like I knew what I was doing all along. Almost exactly like that. I think that's some kind of managerial skill or something that I don't have. 20th to 21st of April. See, it happened. I also realise I'm trusting the chat to be correct on this, but you know what? Why would they post false information? Why would they do that? You wouldn't do that to me, would you? Would you? So, 20th, 21st of April is Grand Prix Manchester. I'm going to be there both judging and acting as regional coordinator. That's the job that Glenn White normally does in the UK. He's our regional coordinator from day to day. What that means is I have had quite a lot of input into exactly who's been selected to come to the Grand Prix. So for that, if you didn't get selected, I'm very sorry. Do let me know if I've caused any kind of major amount of grief. I hope everyone's happy with what they've been given. Fingers crossed, anyway. But it's going to be a cool tournament. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a handful of the judges coming on the Friday. A handful of judges coming on the Friday to get the side events going. We've got some last-minute sealed deck Grand Prix trials, which will get you 3 buys for the following day. We've got a couple of other side events on the Friday. Saturday starts the main event, and you've also got, I think there's a Legacy Championships happening on the Saturday as well. As you can know from my Madrid stream, Legacy is a very interesting format if you want to exercise your judge chops. Are these chops? I don't know. Your judge chops. Some kind of Viking thing. I really don't know what I'm talking about anymore. If you want to exercise your rules knowledge, Legacy is a great arena in which to do that, because all the crazy cards, so much craziness that happens in that format. I'm going to adjust that. I'm looking a bit small. I'm looking like a little bit of a hobbit down here. There we go. That's better. So, GP Manchester, it's going to be cool. Really looking forward to seeing people there. Let's get on with some real Magic content, shall we? We're talking this week about attacking and blocking restrictions. So the first part of the combat step. We talked about the combat damage step in an earlier stream, where we were talking about exactly how you deal damage once you have an attacker and it's being blocked, and there can be multiple attackers this side and multiple blockers this side, and there's lots of damage going all over the place. And we worked out exactly how to deal with all of the damage that's being dealt to the various creatures in play, and how the state-based actions kick in to mop up all the dead creatures afterwards and so on. But what we didn't do was how you actually get those creatures in and attacking in the first place, and how you get creatures blocking, and how that combat phase generally gets started. So let's go with that. So for those of you playing along at home, their Magic game rules, I'm looking in the comp rules at rule 508 at the moment, which is about the declare attacker step. We'll be covering 509 as well, which is the declare blocker step. So I'll give you a moment to go and pick those. And we see that the first thing that happens in the declare attackers step, the first thing is that the active player declares attackers. It's not very surprising, given that's the name of the step. It's a turn-based action. It doesn't use the stack. Nice little bit of terminology in there. turn-based actions are just actions that happen at certain points in the turn. They're not objects, they don't go on the stack, you can't respond to them, it's just what happens when you enter this phase. So you need to be a little bit careful about how exactly you left the beginning of combat step. That's maybe a talk for another time, when I cover priority in the stack in more depth. To declare attackers, the active player follows all the steps below in order, and if at any point they can't actually carry on with what they're trying to declare, then the declaration is illegal and we return back to the moment before the declaration. This would be handled by tournament rules, even if it wasn't handled in the comprehensive rules itself. It's kind of obvious. If you get halfway through attacking and realise that you've messed it all up and you can't actually do what you're in the middle of doing, then you go back and pretend you never did. Awesome. So the active player chooses which creatures he or she controls, if any, will attack. The creatures must be untapped, and each one must either have haste or have been controlled by the active player continuously since the turn began. So this is what's colloquially referred to as summoning sickness. I've got an example here of a creature who has an attacking restriction. Sorry, I'm getting my terminology wrong right from the back. This has an attacking requirement. No, I did get it right the first time. Damn my confidence levels going through the floor as we speak. No, this has a restriction. The Jackal Familiar has an attacking restriction. It is telling you, in a certain sense, what you cannot do with this creature. Oh, sorry, I've skipped the rule that said that if the defending player's got any planeswalkers, this is what a planeswalker looks like, in case you've never seen one before. And if you've never seen one before, you're probably looking at that going, what on earth is that? That doesn't look like any creature I've ever seen. Oh, planeswalkers, again, maybe another subject for another stream. There's quite a lot of interesting stuff you can do with these. But as far as we're concerned, here in the Declare Attacker step, the only interesting thing about planeswalkers is that they can be attacked. So if the defending player does control any planeswalkers, or if the game allows the active player to attack multiple other players, you have to announce which of your creatures is attacking what. So this is normally done, but people just kind of group up one lump of creatures and go, these guys are heading at Gideon and these guys are heading at the player, something like that. So back to our Jackal Familiar. For 508.1c is a rule that says that the active player checks each creature he or she controls to see whether it's affected by any restrictions. These are effects that say a creature can't attack, or it can't attack unless some condition is met. It's something, restrictions stop you from doing things. If there's anything stopping you from attacking, you check to see if you're disobeying any of those. And if you are, then the entire declaration of attackers is illegal. It can't be done. You absolutely must not do anything that you are told not to do. This is colloquially, I'll whiz back to the camera for this. You've probably heard of in Magic rules that can't beats can, and whilst it doesn't exactly say this in the attacking rules, this is essentially what we're talking about. If something says that you cannot do this, then you absolutely mustn't, no matter what other kind of effects are in play. So, can't attack alone, literally cannot happen, impossible, never ever ever going to happen. On the other hand, Berserkers of Blood Ridge has an ability that says that it attacks each turn if able. Now, the if able is already cluing you into the fact that there may be possibilities in which you can't satisfy this requirement. So, again, this is an example of an attacking requirement. A requirement is telling you to do something, it's saying you must do this. Restrictions stop you doing stuff, and requirements make you do stuff. And we can see how they interact in this in these rules, because in 508.1d then says that the active player checks each creature he or she controls to see if it's affected by any requirements. And this is interesting wording. If the number of requirements that are being obeyed is fewer than the maximum possible number of requirements that could be obeyed, but without disobeying any restrictions, then the declaration of attackers is illegal. Tapped creatures and creatures of unpaid cost to attack are exempt from effects that would require them to attack. Well, it's kind of obvious that tapped creatures, you can't attack with tapped creatures anyway. the line about unpaid costs to attack, I'll just flash an example past. Norn's Annex is an example of a card that makes a creature can't attack you unless you pay some kind of cost. So let's get that interaction out of the way first. Berserkers of Blood Ridge says it must attack each turn if able. Norn's Annex sets a cost on that and says, well, it can't attack unless you play white Phyrexian mana for it. So either 1 white mana, which in your Berserkers of Blood Ridge deck you quite possibly don't have, or 2 life. Well, you don't have to. You're not obliged to pay the costs in order to get the Berserkers to attack. Okay, so you're allowed to ignore this must attack if able in the presence of costs that you don't want to pay. That's cool. So if the number of requirements that are being obeyed is fewer than the maximum possible number of requirements that could be obeyed, this is the interesting thing about requirements. More simply, do as many requirements as you can. Never, ever, ever violate a restriction, but do as many requirements as you can. And if you can't do them all, then don't worry about it so much. It's not so much of a problem. As an example of how these can interact, I've got an Alluring Siren here. Alluring Siren was a interesting card from M12. You could hit up your opponents like little utility creatures and say, nope, they've got to attack you this turn if able. So, as an example of what a simple interaction, if I force Jackal Familiar to attack, then it can't attack or block alone. So if the Jackal Familiar is on the table by itself and I force it to attack, then it's got 2 effects on it. One saying I must attack, one saying, well, I can't attack alone, and there's no other way around it. So it doesn't attack. It can't attack because you're not allowed to violate the restrictions. Interesting extra example here. Let's put Grizzly Bears in play as well. So I've got there's a Jackal Familiar and a Grizzly Bears in play. Grizzly Bear is just a vanilla creature, doesn't do anything interesting, just a little 2/2. If I use my Alluring Siren and I target the Jackal Familiar so that the Jackal Familiar must attack, then stuff gets interesting. You have to work out what is the maximum number of requirements that you can possibly satisfy. Now in this scenario we've got 1 restriction, which is Jackal Familiar must not attack alone, and we've got 1 requirement, which is Jackal Familiar must attack. It's come from the Alluring Siren. So if we've only got 1 requirement, well, the maximum number that we could ever possibly satisfy is 1. And if we try to arrange an attacking set that doesn't satisfy that requirement, then it's going to be illegal because 0 is less than 1. So let's think about the possible attacks. Possible attack number 1. Neither creature attacks. So Jackal Familiar and Grizzly Bears, and they both stay back. It's not violating any restrictions, so it might be okay, but it's not giving you any requirements either. So it's satisfying 0 requirements. Let's think of the next one. Jackal Familiar attacks, Grizzly Bear stays back. This is definitely illegal because Jackal Familiar isn't allowed to do this. You would be violating restriction, which you can never ever do. Grizzly Bears attacks, but Jackal Familiar doesn't. Again, we're not violating restriction. We're not violating a restriction, so it might be legal. But are we satisfying any requirements? No, satisfying 0 requirements. Final possible set. Both creatures go in. Jackal Familiar attacks, Grizzly Bears attacks. We're not violating any restrictions because Jackal Familiar isn't attacking alone, and we are happily meeting the requirement on the Jackal Familiar to attack. So, of all the possible attacking sets that we have, there is 1 attacking set that both satisfies the 1 requirement we have and does not break the restriction that we have. It's the only possible legal attack. So if you've got Alluring Siren and it forces a Jackal Familiar to attack, and you do have another creature, they both got to go in. It's quite an interesting result, and I realise I probably belaboured the point a little bit there, but 1, I enjoy doing that, and 2, I hope that that gets that one to sink in quite nicely. Please fire away in the chat if if I leave anything unclear about this one. So after we've checked if the attacking restrictions and requirements have been satisfied, then if any of the creatures that have been chosen have a banding ability or are bands with other ability, then the active player announces which creatures, if any, are banded with which. So here's an example of how it can happen. There's a lovely aura called Cooperation, which gives a creature banding, which means because the aura exists, but anyone can pick up banding. And you just go, okay, now I've worked out all my attacks. I can say these are in a band, and I can say these aren't in a band. And after we've declared what bands have been formed, then everything gets tapped, unless you had vigilance or something. I don't think did I bring a vigilant creature with me? No, I don't think I did. Never mind. I'm sure you've all seen a vigilant creature before. Let's see if I can do this. I'm interested to see if I can actually do this on the fly. Someone name their favourite vigilant creature, and I'll see if I can get it up on the screen for them. So, in the meantime, when you attack, the creatures get tapped. It's not a cost associated with attacking. 2 votes for Sarah Angel. Must be a popular card. Yeah. Simon and Gareth are totally not allowed to talk anymore. No, I don't. How do you undo a jinx? So I have to say your name. Now that I've said Simon and Gareth, has that lifted the jinx? I don't remember how this works, having not been at primary school for some time. So I can totally do that. I can save the picture. I can drop the shot in. Can I switch to it? And switch the sound on. Remember to switch the sound on, Paul. There we go. Sarah Angel has vigilance. Nice little reminder text there. Attacking doesn't cause this creature to tap. It's slightly relevant, certainly in your own mind, to think that tapping the creature is not a cost to attack. It's just a result. It's what happens when you are declared as an attacker, unless you have vigilance. Then, if any of the chosen creatures require paying any costs to attack, you determine the total cost to attack. So I'll flash Norn's Annex back up on the screen for that one. Work out what's our total cost to attack. If I've got 2 guys going in, then my cost to attack must be white, or 4 life, or white and 2 life. There's an interesting part of the rule here, which I didn't read last time. Costs may include paying mana, tapping permanents, sacrificing permanents, discarding cards, and so on. All kinds of things can be costs, as you know from the kind of costs that go with the kind of costs that go with casting spells. Sorry, I'm laughing because I've just got on my phone something, I think on Facebook, Christine Gavrilovich from Austria shouting, "No, not the banding!" So for every person I make happy by talking about banding, there's an equal and opposite person who's unhappy from me talking about banding. Bit of the rule I hadn't noticed here. It says once the total cost is determined, it becomes locked in, and if any effect would change the total cost to attack after this time, then we ignore it. I can't think, off the top of my head, of anything that would do that. So again, I'm appealing to you lovely, lovely people in the chat. Can you think of anything that would change the total cost to attack at some point after we got there? It's an interesting conundrum. Maybe good for a trivia quiz someday. If any of those costs require mana, like Norn's Annex might do if you chose not to pay the 2 life option, then you have the chance to activate mana abilities. We don't make you go all the way through declaring an attack and then go, but you need some mana, and you didn't activate your mana abilities. So you have to go all the way back to the start and tap your lands and then go through it all again. Yes, we're not that draconian. Not anymore, anyway. And then once you've got all the mana in your mana pool that you need, you pay all the costs, and you pay them all in any order. You can't partially pay for stuff, but I'm not sure why you'd want to. And then each creature that was chosen to be part of your attacking set that you still control after having paid all of the costs that you wanted to, finally becomes an attacking creature. And it remains an attacking creature until either it's been removed from combat or the combat phase ends, whichever comes first. There's a whole bunch of things that could remove you from combat. Regeneration removes you from combat. There's a guy in Dark Ascension, I think, that I think he explicitly says when it comes to play, you get to remove target creature from combat. So, target attacking blocking creature from combat, something like that. I'm trying to search magiccards.info as I'm talking, just to see if I can find him. Never mind. Search fail. Anyway. So yes, it remains an attacking creature until it gets removed for some reason, or until the combat phase ends. And the combat phase, it starts with the beginning of combat step, which I've skipped past. It goes all the way through the declare attackers, declare blockers, all the way through damage. The combat damage, when assignment happens and resolution of combat damage. And there's an end of combat step, and you're still considered to be an attacking creature all the way through there, which is what gives you that nice trick with the Knight of the Reliquary and Maze of Ith, which I haven't put on this one. But Knight of the Reliquary, it's a big fat creature that likes to blah 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 blah. I'm losing control of my software. Never mind. Yeah, Knight of the Reliquary is a big fat creature, so it likes to attack, and it's got a very handy tap ability as well, and it interacts well with land. So what you can do with Maze of Ith is you can untap the Knight of the Reliquary after it's attacked, because it's still considered an attacking creature, and after it's dealt its damage. So the Maze of Ith's ability isn't going to stop it from dealing its large amounts of damage, and then it's up and it's ready. Its shield's up, untapped, ready to use its useful tapping ability, which is cool. 508.2 starts with the word second. Any abilities that triggered. So all of that thing is, first, the active player declares attackers. And we've just been going all the way through the attacker declaration. And we've finally done the attacker declaration. Then, any abilities that triggered on attackers being declared go on the stack. Here's an example of one. Here's Hero of Bladehold. Whenever he attacks, you put 2/1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Now, I chose this one specifically because he's quite a nice example. I've said he without even looking at the artwork. Clearly, I'm looking at the elephant rhino thing that she's riding and going, that's a he, that's the hero, definitely not the one riding it. She, Hero of Bladehold, she is a great example of the difference between attacking and attacks as used on words on magic cards. It's slightly unfortunate that the words are very similar and mean entirely different things. I think I brought another example with us. Yes, caltrops. Whenever a creature attacks, caltrops deals 1 damage to it. So I want you to think about this one. What happens if you attack with Hero of Bladehold and you've got no other creatures in play? You just attack with Hero of Bladehold when there's caltrops in play. I want you to have a think about what happens. And have a think about what happens, and I'll let you know the answer shortly enough. Just reading through the chat. If an opponent has a ghostly prison, and you have a Jackal Familiar and an Ornithopter, and Ashnod's Altar and 2 lands, you can attack with both and sacrifice the Ornithopter to pay 2 of the required 4. But then, of course, the cost would have changed because you wouldn't be attacking with the Ornithopter anymore or something. Yeah, okay. I think that's a good example, Simon. I think you've done well there. The cost is locked in at 4, even though you've sacrificed the attacking Ornithopter. Of course, if you made it not an Ornithopter that had some kind of attack trigger, but yeah. Okay, so Hero of Bladehold versus Caltrops is attacking him by itself. Tuesday is noob. That's Mark Aylett, isn't it? Is that Mark? He has asked the relevant question, which is which order are you stacking the two triggers of hero? Yes, I've neatly gone over the fact that Hero of Bladehold also has Battle Cry, which is also a whenever this creature attacks kind of trigger. So we've got two triggers that have triggered off of the same event. So the active player, which is obviously the controller of Hero of Bladehold, because only the active player can possibly be attacking, they get to choose what order the things happen in. I'll give you a clue. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, because by and large, you want the creature tokens to come into play first before you give +1 power to them. But there we go. The Caltrops from the opponent will trigger and go on the stack on top of this. But the important part of the interaction that I'm getting here is that Hero of Bladehold attacked. So when Caltrops says, whenever a creature attacks, Caltrops deals 1 damage to it, Caltrops is going to deal 1 damage to the Hero of Bladehold, because it did attack. Attack means to have gone from a non-attacking state into an attacking state. On the other hand, the tokens, they just materialised on the battlefield already attacking. So whilst they are attacking, they never attacked. So they're not going to get hit by the Caltrops. And if you stack them in the right order, you're going to be attacking with 2 1s. So Hero Bladehold takes 1 damage. There we go. I'm being told in the chat that this interaction can be very confusing to non-judges. It's very true. And you can see why. I'm using the word attacking and attacked, and I'm telling you they're different things. And you're like, no, they're not. They're just different tenses of the same word. Or tenses the same? I think it's tenses. My grammar's a little bit rusty. But attacking and attacked, like, surely they're the same concept. No, they're not. Sadly not. There's similar triggers to do with becoming tapped. There are things that trigger off of becoming tapped. I think I did this one the other week. I want to try and find it again. If I Google for the Oracle text becomes tapped, then I hit a couple of things. Yeah, Brink of Disaster's on there. Why didn't I remember Brink of Disaster? Where are you, Brink? Oh, where's all my pictures gone? Where have they gone? Oh, I really am failing to... Oh, it'll be my downloads folder on my... This is why I was failing to get it on. There we go. Come on. Brink of Disaster. Drop it in. Turn the sound on. Switch to it. Yeah! Brink of Disaster. So, when Enchanted Permanent becomes tapped, you destroy it. It doesn't do anything if you put Brink of Disaster onto a thing that's already tapped. And it even more doesn't do anything if you have a thing that's already tapped and you enchant it with Brink of Disaster and you somehow tap it again. Like, tap target creature, but it already was tapped. It's not going to have any effect. And it certainly doesn't trigger this. For something to become tapped, it has to have gone from a previous state of not being tapped to the current state of being tapped. It has to have actually changed state. This is similar. When a creature attacks, it has to have gone from not attacking to attacking, and not just materialised in an attacking state. I think I've belaboured that point a little too much, so we'll try to move on. Third, after we've done those triggers, the active player gets priority, and the players may cast spells and activate abilities. So you do get a chance to respond to the battle cry and the tokens materialising thing, and you get to respond to the Caltrops. You get to do stuff with that. Then I'm reading the next part of the rule, 508.4, and it's actually also saying what I've just been banging on about. If a creature is put onto the battlefield attacking, its controller chooses which defending player or which planeswalker defending player controls its attacking as enters the battlefield, unless the effect that puts it on specifies what it's attacking. It's actually an interesting point. Yeah, if I attack with the hero of Bladehold, I get to put tokens on the battlefield attacking, but I get to make the choice of whether they're going to attack a planeswalker or not. So let's say we got Gideon in play over here. There he is. I can attack Gideon with my hero of Bladehold, and then put the creatures, the tokens can come in and just attack the player. That's even true. In fact, that's even true if Gideon's activated his +2 loyalty ability that says during target opponent's next turn, creatures that players control attack Gideon Jura if able. That requirement to attack only matters during the actual declaration of attack. So I declare Hero of Bladehold as an attacker, and in this case it has to go and attack Gideon. Then we've successfully navigated the declaration of attackers without violating the rules on requirements and restrictions. So having got there, we put this trigger on the stack. When the trigger resolves, we've got some attackers, the tokens that materialise attacking, and they are not required to attack Gideon. They've got absolute free choice because they're not part of that attack declaration. Gideon's already given that his stamp of approval. It's like, yep, fine, that attack is fine, I am happy with that attack. And then the tokens go and bugger off somewhere else, and he can't see them or something. Tiny little soldiers. If an effect that puts a creature onto the battlefield attacking does specify that it has to attack a certain player, and for some reason that player is no longer in the game, which obviously can happen in multiplayer games, then the creature still gets to be put onto the battlefield, but just doesn't become an attacking creature at all. It doesn't happen. You get your creature, you don't get denied that, but sadly, it doesn't get to change its mind. Pardon me, hiccups on the stream. There we go. It doesn't get to change its mind over who it was going to attack. Then there's some rules about if an ability of an attacking creature refers to a defending player, or a spell or ability refers to both an attacking creature and a defending player, then basically you lock in the defending player and it doesn't change. And that does something in multiplayer. You can tell I haven't really prepared an example for that rule because I'm trying to think of one right now and I just can't do it. Interesting trivia rule then in 508.6 that says if no creatures are declared as attackers or put onto the battlefield attacking, then you skip the declare blockers and combat damage steps. You'd actually just cut out part of the turn. There's no need to declare blockers if nothing was declared as an attacker, and there's no need to go into combat damage if nothing was declared as an attacker. So you skip right to the end of combat step. The reason I'm calling that a nice little trivia rule is quite a common question to ask new judges. Is the old classic of I start the game, I choose to play first, and on my first turn I do nothing except play a land and say go. How many times have I actually passed priority? And one of the catch rules in there is because you never declared an attacker, you will skip 2 steps in the turn, and that might get your count of priority passes wrong. But priority is a topic for another stream. If you have any priority questions, then get them into me on Twitter at PaulSmithenator, PaulSmithenator, or give them to me as a private message on forums. I'm always interested in answering real questions rather than just making up scenarios and hoping they illustrate the certain phenomenon that come from the rules. It's always much more exciting to go. There's I know an actual thing that is confusing somebody, and I can go and talk about that. Let's move on to the declare blocker step. It's pretty much the same, actually, as the declare attack step. You will be pretty much unsurprised to hear. Thank you to, I've forgotten who it was, I think it might have been Mark again. Mark gave me an example of something that gives you a cost to block, because I couldn't think of one. Cowed by Wisdom, lovely Saviours of Kamigawa card. Obviously that block had a whole bunch of mechanics that cared about the number of cards in your hand. This one says that your target creature can't attack or block unless its controller pays 1 mana for each card in your hand. So yeah, you can get a cost to block. But let's walk through the declare blocker step. So again, for those playing along at home, this is rule 509. And you'll notice this mirrors the attacking. This mirrors the attacking rules pretty much exactly, and that's no accident. First, the defending player declares blockers. This is a turn-based action. It doesn't use the stack. You follow the steps below in order, and if at any point you've done something illegal, then you rewind the whole declaration. You choose which creatures you control, if any will block. The chosen creatures must be untapped. For each of the chosen creatures, the defending player chooses one creature for it to block that's attacking him, her, or a planeswalker he or she controls. So two big differences between blocking and attacking here. You can block even if you haven't been controlled since the beginning of the turn. So the summoning sickness rule just doesn't apply here. And the blockers have to choose what they're blocking. Then we go through the same set of shenanigans that we had before. The defending player checks each creature he or she controls to see whether it's affected by any restrictions, anything that says you cannot block, or that you can't block unless some condition is met. Though we saw an example, there's no need to go to another card. This is a blocking restriction as well. Can't block alone. And again, just like in attacking, if any restrictions are being disobeyed, the declaration of blockers is illegal. So you cannot block alone with a Jackal Familiar. Never, ever, ever. Can't be done. Yeah, and then if you check to see if the defending player checks each creature he or she controls to see whether it's affected by any requirements. And if the number of requirements that are being obeyed is fewer than the maximum possible, then the declaration of blockers is illegal. So again, satisfy as many requirements as you can. So let's look at some blocking requirements. Here's Taunting Elf. Here's a creature with one. All creatures that are able to block Taunting Elf do so. And again, you can tell in the language here, like all creatures, only ones that are able, though. You know, if you're not able to, then don't worry about it. Requirements are not as important, as it were, as restrictions. You mustn't ever block alone with a Jackal Familiar, but you only have to block a Taunting Elf if you can. If you can do it, then it would be nice. But if you can't, don't worry about it. Don't worry. That's what it's like. So here's an example of where you might not be able to satisfy all the requirements, but you've got to satisfy as many as you can. So let's say I have a Taunting Elf in play and it attacks, so all creatures that are able to block Taunting Elf do so. And I also have another creature and it's got Lure on it, which basically just gives the same ability to another creature, and I'm attacking with a bunch of other creatures. Now here's the interesting thing about the requirements. Because 509.1c says that the defending player checks each creature he or she controls to see whether it is affected by any requirements. The number of requirements we've actually got here, it depends on how many blockers there are. So let's say the attacker has the Taunting Elf, a Lured guy, and a Grizzly Bears, third one. And there's 4 creatures that could attack. The total number of requirements is 8. Taunting Elf makes 4 requirements. It says, you must block me, you must block me, you must block me, and you must block me. And equally, the Lure makes another 4. It says, you must block me, and you must block me, and you must block me, and you must block me. And the Grizzly Bears doesn't make any requirements at all because it's just Grizzly Bears and doesn't do anything. So you've got the 3 attackers coming in. Now, if there's no restrictions on blocking, then we don't have to worry about those. We'll just have to look at the requirements. Now, if this blocker here, if he blocks the Lured guy, he's satisfying 1 requirement, but he's also not satisfying any requirement that the Taunting Elf was giving him. So if I took this creature and I block the Lured guy, it's going to satisfy 1 requirement. And if I block the Elf, it's going to satisfy 1 requirement. And if I block the Grizzly Bears, it's going to satisfy 0 requirements. And if I go through this process for each of the 4 blockers I've got, each blocker could only possibly satisfy 1 of the requirements, because it's not possible for him to satisfy both blocking requirements. Can't block both the Taunting Elf and the Lure, unless of course you can. I'll come back to that. So you're only ever going to be able to satisfy 4 of the 8 requirements, and you must do so. You can't go, oh well, there are some requirements that I can't satisfy, therefore I'm exempt from all of them. That doesn't work. you have to do as many as possible. And because there is a set which allows you to satisfy 4 requirements, you must satisfy 4. As it turns out, there's many sets. All 4 could block the elf, all 4 could block the lure, or you could go 2 and 2 on the elf and the lure. There's a whole bunch of blocking sets that meet this requirement. In fact, if you want to think about it mathematically, each of the 4 blockers has 4 choices of how to block. You can block the lure guy, you can block the elf, you can block the bear, or you can block nothing at all. So if each of my 4 guys has got 4 possibilities to choose from, then we've actually got 256 blocking sets that we could possibly go through. It's quite a few. Luckily, as humans, we're intuitively able to go, well, it's fairly obvious. We can meet 4 of the requirements, we'll just do it. We don't have to iterate through each of the 256 possibilities to go to get where we were going, which is nice because that might make tournaments take a very long time. And I said just now, there's no way you could possibly satisfy both the requirements on the elf and the lure guy, unless of course you could. And here's an example of what I was talking about, because I just noticed this out of the corner of my eye. Palace Guard, of course, he can block any number of creatures. So if one of the 4 blockers was the Palace Guard, he can satisfy the requirement to block the elf, and also satisfy the requirement to block the lured guy, which means he can, by himself, satisfy 2 requirements, which would mean there would be a blocking set, at least one blocking set, that would satisfy 5 of the 8 requirements. And so you must do it, because you can. Another interesting card in the realm of attacking and blocking restrictions is Silent Arbiter. Love this guy. No more than 1 creature may attack, no more than 1 creature may block. Now, this makes life very interesting. So, let's assume that we've still got our elf, we've still got our lured guy, and we've still got our grizzly bears, and they're all we want to declare an attack, but we got the Silent Arbiter there, so only 1 thing can attack. Then, when the Taunting Elf attacks, we know we've only got 1 requirement to obey. Sorry, that's not true. We've got 4 requirements to obey because we still have our 4 blockers saying I must block this guy, I must block this guy. But we've got a restriction that says only 1 creature may block. Now again, if you were a computer, if you were an automated magic rules engine, you might have to iterate through a heck of a lot of possibilities to work out exactly what's legal here. But as humans, we can go, well, this is actually quite easy. I've got to block the Taunting Elf, and I can only block with 1 thing. So there's only 4 possibilities. I can take any of my 4 blockers and block with that. And there we go. Job done. So, Silent Arbiter. Making things complex for machines, but showing us why humans are awesome. I've got just another couple of interesting attacking and blocking cards to go through before I nip back to the rules. Flash Foliage is another. It's the same example it's the same example as the Hero Bladehold. The difference between attacking and attacks. This one just lets you put a token into play blocking, which is nice, because it never has to be declared as a blocker. So it's free of all the restrictions and requirements to do with blocking. And amusingly, also, it's actually free from the evasion requirements. So if I can rewind back to 509.1b, it says that you have to check each creature that you control to see whether it's affected by restrictions, and that a restriction may be created by an evasion ability. If an attacking creature gains or loses an evasion ability after a block's been declared, it doesn't matter. So the classic example is a flying creature just cannot be blocked by a non-flying creature. The amusing thing about Flash Foliage is it puts something into play blocking. It puts this sapling creature token into play blocking. It doesn't have to be declared as a blocker, so it doesn't need to meet any of the requirements for blocking. It doesn't care about any restrictions for blocking. It can just block. So this leaves you with quite an interesting situation where with Silent Arbiter in play, you can declare your single Hero of Bladehold as an attacker. That's met his restriction. I only declared 1 attacker. Then the trigger goes off, and we get 2 soldier tokens come into play attacking. So we've actually ended up with 3 creatures attacking, but Silent Arbiter doesn't care because he only saw 1 creature actually attack, so that's fine. And then we can declare a blocker and then play Flash Foliage to put another creature and play blocking. And we can end up with 3 creatures attacking and 2 creatures blocking, and Silent Arbiter nodding away in the middle of it all and just remaining silent like he does. And not caring, because he, as far as he's concerned, he only saw 1 creature attack and 1 creature block. So there you go. I'm being told in the chat that I don't really think computers use brute force searches to play Magic. Yeah, you're probably right. They probably don't. But determining whether a set of attackers and blockers is legal, as it's worded in the comprehensive rules, is very brute forcey. There are probably ways around it. Probably. Right, have I missed anything? They just used John Finkel. Yeah, John Finkel is actually a cyborg. You heard it here first. I've got another variation of a blocking requirement here. It's different to the Taunting Elf one. Goblin Fire Fiend must be blocked if able. The defending player blocks Goblin Fire Fiend if able. But unlike Taunting Elf said everyone has to block him. Goblin Fire Fiend just says, yeah, I've got to be blocked. So let's think about how that works. If I've got a Taunting Elf and a Goblin Fire Fiend, and they both block, they both attack. They attack together, and I've got 3 blockers. Taunting Elf sets up 3 requirements: you must block me, you must block me, and you must block me. And Goblin Fire Fiend sets up a requirement, says I've got to be blocked. Total 4 requirements. So let's think of the sets. If I put all 3 guys on the Elf, I'm satisfying 3 of the requirements. And I'm not satisfying 1 requirement, which is the Goblin Fire Fiend, because he's getting through unblocked. If I put 1 guy on the Fiend and 2 guys on the Elf, I'm still satisfying 3 requirements, because 2 guys on the Elf, that's 2 requirements, and blocking the Fire Fiend, that's 1. So that's still 3 requirements, so that would be legal as well. If I put 2 guys on the Goblin and only 1 on the Elf, then I'd only be satisfying 2 requirements, so that wouldn't be legal. So in that case, Taunting Elf and Goblin Fire Fiend both attacking. Taunting Elf can be blocked, has to be blocked by either everybody or all bar 1 blocker, and 1 blocker is allowed to go and block the Goblin Fire Fiend. Don't remember the result like that though. Remember the rule that got you to the result. You total up the requirements and meet as many as you can without ever violating restriction. If you can do that, then you can declare blockers, my son, or something. Got a little bit of Rudyard Kipling going there, like that. I don't think there's anything more I need to say about the blocking step. Let's just whiz through the rules. We've got as far as 509.1d. If there's any costs to block, I showed you that with Count by Wisdom. Then this gets locked in. If the costs require mana, you can activate mana abilities. You can spend the mana, do the costs. And then everything becomes a blocking creature. The reason I'm skimming over this so quickly is because it's just identical to the attacking part. This bit looks new though. An attacking creature with 1 or more creatures declared as blockers for it becomes a blocked creature. And one with no creatures declared as blockers for it becomes an unblocked creature. That's actually important. You're not unblocked until the opponent has actually had a chance to block you. Like, as soon as you're declared as an attacker, you might intuitively, from a normal use of English point of view, you might intuitively think, well, he's unblocked because nothing's blocked it yet. But the fact is, because they haven't had a chance to block, they're not considered to be unblocked until they've actually had a chance. One card that cares about this is Ink Eyes, because of ninjutsu. It says that you return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. This is really great. You get in with one of your little weeny little creatures and go, aha, he got through. Okay, I'm going to take 1. No, I was a ninja all along. Love ninjas, but they're not unblocked until blockers have actually been declared. Then we have to declare in the declare blocker step the damage assignment order. So for each attacking creature that's just become blocked, the active player announces that creature's damage assignment order. Then if a creature gets removed from combat or it causes to stop blocking, then it's removed from that damage assignment order, but the relative order amongst the other creatures is unchanged. I think we covered damage assignment order in a previous stream, so I won't delve too far into that one. Then the blocking creature announces the creature's damage assignment order because it is possible to block more than one thing. Again, I'm pretty sure I used Palace Guard in that previous example. Then anything that triggers on blockers being declared goes on the stack. There's quite a lot of examples of that. I'll go back to those in just a moment. Active player gets priority. I want to point at that. I'm pointing viciously at my screen, and you can't see me because I haven't switched back to camera. Pointing. 509.5. The active player gets priority. Who's the active player in the declare blockers step? Who is the active player in the declare blockers step? It's the same as the active player in the declare attacker step. It's the player whose turn it is, who is not the person blocking. It's very common to believe that as soon as you've declared your blockers, you must have priority at that point, because you just declared blockers. You've just finished doing your thing, so it must be your priority. It's not at all. You declared blockers, and the attacker gets first dibs. Just like normal. Let's pop Palace Guard back up there. And if a spell or ability causes a creature to block an attacking creature, then you've got to announce the blocker's placement. So yeah, flash foliage again here. If I suddenly flash a blocker in like that, then the attacker's got to tell me where it's going in the order. I can't change the order of anyone else. I can just insert him in an order somewhere. And similarly to being put into the battlefield attacking, you choose what creature it's blocking as it enters the battlefield. So there we go. All right, let's go back to those combat triggers, because there's quite a few different blocked ones. We have... So this is 509.4 if you're still playing along at home. An ability that reads whenever this creature blocks triggers only once per combat. Something that reads whenever this creature blocks a creature, then it will trigger times the number of creatures that it blocked. Similarly, when I become blocked, well, I only become blocked once. I go from being not blocked to blocked. It doesn't matter how many guys blocked me, I only became blocked once. But if I trigger on a creature becoming blocked by a creature, then I have become blocked by a creature multiple times. So, again, think of it in terms of state transitions. I am not blocked by anybody. These two blockers then both blocked me. And at that point, once that block is locked in, I have gone from not being blocked to being blocked once. I have gone from not being blocked by this guy to being blocked by this guy, and at the same time, not being blocked by this guy to being blocked by this guy. So, an ability that reads whenever this creature becomes blocked by a creature is going to trigger multiple times when in a multi-blocking scenario. My cow's telling me it's 10 o'clock. It's definitely time to wrap up soon. Somebody is talking about Rampage. I can't remember what Rampage is, so I'm going to look it up. Rampage. It's an old ability. It's whenever this creature becomes blocked, it gets +3/+3 until end of turn for each creature blocking it beyond the first. That's not quite what I was going for. Because this is whenever the creature becomes blocked, something happens for each creature blocking it. So that's going to trigger once and have an effect that's based on the number of things that are blocking it. Where somebody has just mentioned Bushido. I'm just going to check the wording of Bushido. When this blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn if you have Bushido 1. So again, that's only going to trigger one time. Let's actually search for blocked by a creature and see if we get... Do we get a recent example? There we go. Arrogant Bloodlord. is one of them. Because it's by a creature with power 1 or less, it doesn't actually matter that that one's going to trigger multiple times. Oh yeah, here we go. Ashmouth Hound. That's quite a good one. How quickly can I get it up onto the screen? Save Ashmouth Hound. Whack it there. Switch to it. Turn the microphone on. Ashmouth Hound. Whenever Ashmouth Hound blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, Ashenmouth Hound deals 1 damage to that creature. So if this guy gets double blocked, he's going to deal 1 damage to each of those creatures in a kind of an Uber first strike sense. So yeah, another key difference. Blocking, whenever a creature blocks, happens once. Whenever a creature becomes blocked, happens once. Whenever a creature becomes blocked by a creature, that happens multiple times. I mean, yes, I agree. Someone in the chat has just said there's nice flavour text on Ashmouth Hound. Yes, I agree entirely. And I think we're done. And yet again, I said to the guys in the chat early on, oh, I haven't got so much prepared this time. Might be a quick one. And I've been recording for just shy of an hour. Brilliant. Ashmouth Hound and Deadly Allure. Apparently it's some free draft tech. That's Deadly Allure, I'm sure, is some form of you must block me kind of thing. I'm going to look it up. In fact, I'm enjoying this ability to just save pictures on the fly and whack them into the stream. But I'm just going to do that right now, even though I don't have anything to say about Deadly Allure. But it was brought up in the chat, so here it is. Target creature gains death touch on end of turn and must be blocked this turn if able. There we go. That does go very nicely indeed with Ashmouth Hound, because his 1 piece of damage is death touch damage, which, as we know, is a state-based action. If you've been dealt damage by a Sorcerer with Death Touch since the last time we checked state-based actions, and you dead, or you get destroyed, and regeneration can affect. This is the hard thing about talking about magic rules, because every time you think about a magic rule, you think about a card that kind of exemplifies it, and then a card that kind of counters it, and then a card that interacts with those in a funny way, and blah, 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 blah. It will be quicker next time if I don't mention the beard. I won't mention the beard if it's not quite so big. So much beard. Anyway, I've enjoyed doing this stream. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. I don't have a topic lined up for next week. So what have I been saying today? I will do lots of, let's say, priority. I've said priority a lot, haven't I? Yeah. Priority it is. Excellent. Priority next week. Woohoo! Who was my favourite Tekken character? Last weekend, this weekend just gone, one of my friends from Bath came down and visited me, which was lovely. He's seen, obviously, this part of the room over the internet several times, and to see him walk into the room and go, ha ha, this is it here. It was quite interesting. But he brought Street Fighter Cross Tekken with him, which is it's a Street Fighter game with characters from both Street Fighter and Tekken, and you get to play them against each other, which was absolutely awesome. And it came with there were 2 stupid characters in there that were like tiny little cats. I think they're PlayStation mascots or something. And I really you could kind of tag them. So I got this cat in play, and I hit my opponent, and then comboed into this kind of tag team thing that brought Akuma from Street Fighter on, doing his Raging Demon attack. So it's like little cat went me 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 me, and switched into this massive demon that went. And I'm glad that was on the recording for everyone to see. Yes, next week, priority. See you there. Until then, I've been Paul Smith, and it's been great fun. Love it. Need a better sign-off line than that. Never mind.